Thanks for joining us today on Mormon Land, where we explore news in and about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm Senior Managing Editor Dave Noyce. I oversee the Salt Lake Tribune's faith coverage. I'm joined by religion reporter Peggy Fletcher-Stack. Hi, Peggy.
Hi, Dave.
We remind you about another way to support Mormon Land. Just go to patreon.com, where with a donation as small as $3 a month, you can access transcripts to our podcasts, our complete newsletter, and all of our exclusive religion coverage. Again, that's Patreon, patreon.com/Mormonland. Now, for today's show. Valentine's Day, a holiday full of hearts and hopes, cards and candy, roses and romance. It's a time couples seek their favorite table at their favorite restaurant and view their favorite rom-com from their favorite couch. What does it mean, though, for young members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Are they on the lookout for more than gestures, indeed eternal marriage, or do they just want to have a good time? We invited two young single adult Latter-day Saints, Sara Sumsion, who is working on a master's degree in marriage and family therapy at Northwestern University, and Matt Judd, who is a health statistics consultant, to tell us what the LDS dating scene is really like. Sara and Matt, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you here. So just briefly tell us what Latter-day Saint dating is like today. We're past the pandemic. You're all plugged in and connected. What's it like? Matt, you want to start?
Sure. I feel like it's more the Wild West than it ever has been a little bit.
That's valid.
Maybe that's just the stage of life we're now in. We're not in our early 20s, so we're maybe trying to be a little more serious now. Lots of dating apps, lots of trying to ward hop around to meet the cute singles, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sara, what about you?
Yeah, no, I would describe it very much the same. I think there's a lot more activities that are happening, and they're trying to get us together more. But
Sponsored by the church?
Sponsored by the church, sponsored by the individual wards. Even the institutes are doing 25 and older nights that come mingle, come meet people, your same demographic, that sort of thing. But it's not like any other era before. I think it's completely changed out there.
What about online dating? Have you both tried that and like it?
Tried it. Yes. Liked it. That's a mixed bag for me, at least.
I feel like most people don't like the dating apps at all.
Really?
I don't mind them. I lived out of state for a long time, so that was kind of my only way to meet people if I didn't want to go to the club or the bar. So I have maybe a little more favorable view of them, but I feel like most people don't like the apps.
Yeah.
Even though they're on them, most people.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost a given that you have to be on them to have any exposure out there. But I personally haven't seen success from the apps or in my dating life or the people around me.
From LDS dating apps or just general dating apps?
Both. There's one big one for the church called Mutual.
Yeah.
And then a lot of others. Yeah, I'm sure you know.
Yeah. I mean, they each have their own kind of gimmick to, you have ones that let girls only message first. You have ones where you like specific things about that profile. Mutual is good in theory because you can see somebody's activity status. You can see their temple recommend status, that sort of thing. But no one is perfect, and they're definitely not doing as good of a job as they would like to, I'm sure.
I see. So what counts as a date in today's world?
You're a guy, you probably ask him more dates than I do. I'll let you.
I have a lot. I've got like kind of a wide net for what counts as a date, whether it's like a formal date or just kind of hanging out. I usually kind of count that anyways. Like as long as you're like spending time together, getting to know each other. I don't know. That's gotten me in trouble with some ambiguity though, when somebody thought it was a date and somebody didn't or whatever. So.
Is it like prearranged, or you do count that's what makes a date if it's arranged, or if you just,
if you want to be real explicit, you can just be like, hey, do you want to go out with me on Saturday? And that's pretty obvious. But if it's like, hey, there's this cool thing going on tonight, do you want to come? And it turns out it's just the two of you. Is that a date or not? It's like, you're just going to the park to check out whatever festival's going on. It's like you're just hanging out, spending time together. So it could be a date, or it could just be you like spending time with them.
Matt, are we on a date at the Salt Lake Tribune right now? Is that what's happening?
That's up for debate, I think. Yeah. I don't know. You asked me. So is this a date?
The
Trib app for Mormon dating. Yes. Okay.
What are some of the popular quote outings that you guys do to meet people, or what are your most favorite date
To meet people or to
activities?
go on dates?
To go on dates,
Okay.
let's say.
I think anything culturally happening in downtown Salt Lake around the area is always fun. Anything kind of unique. I went to the Van Gogh exhibit when it was here at the Gateway as kind of a pop-up. That was cool. But it also depends on what stage of dating you're in. You don't want to invest a lot of time, money, resources into a first date when there may not be a future there. So it's good to have something that's a lot more casual to start out with, going on a walk, getting ice cream, something like that, where there is an easy out if you need it, is kind of a big thing for me, at least.
Matt?
No, I totally agree with that. I think, all the festivals and stuff going around downtown is great. Especially around the holidays. I mean, pretty much all of like October through December, it's pretty easy to find a good date idea because there's always things going on. Halloween stuff, Christmas stuff, you can do a sub for Santa type date. Like there's lots of things you can do. In the summer, there's tons of options. Just go for a walk, whatever.
Do you each have dates for Valentine's Day, or are you taking a more casual, easy approach?
Right?
This is it.
Oh, okay. There you go. All right.
This is as close as I'm getting to it.
Yeah, same here.
What are the gender expectations? Is it still young men ask, young men pay? What are those kinds of things in the LDS universe? Young people.
I mean, I think we've definitely come away a little bit from men always have to ask. There's a friend, actually one of our mutual friends, that had decided this year that she was going to go on so many dates, and she took it upon herself that she was going to ask. She was going to be the one.
year of yes.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, not always, and I think I'd be comfortable asking, but then it kind of gets into shaky area because, okay, if you ask, you pay, and then it goes from there kind of thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I kind of throw the rule book out the window, honestly.
Right.
I've been asked out on a lot of dates by women. Even when I have been asked out, sometimes I will pay, even, sometimes I'll offer to pay, sometimes they'll pay, whatever. Sometimes when I ask them, they'll pay for themselves. Like, it's just, I think it's kind of, I think it's
rigid
whatever.
as it has been, not as
I say that, but I guess, my roommate got asked out by a woman a few months ago, I think. And he was very surprised. And he said that was the first time that it happened to him. And I was like, no, I was like, you're an attractive guy. This should have happened way long
It should have can confirm it should have happened long ago.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us your favorite date you've ever been on. And you don't have to be with that person or whatever. It could have just been a great date.
I went to the Parade of Homes, and that was so fun. Just to kind of walk around, and I mean, it's...
Yeah.
Well, you can interact a lot.
Yeah,
you can talk a lot.
You can talk. You can interact. You can
can-
choose which homes you go
You
to.
can share your
when.
aesthetics.
Exactly. You can
probably learn a lot.
You
actually,
learn a
about
lot
person then,
about,
yes.
especially if it's serious. I mean, at this point, it was serious with him. I was like, okay, well, we're going to clash on decorating this house if this works out because we are not agreeing on what our favorite houses are.
Oh, that's funny. What about you, Matt?
I think
Any favorite
probably
dates?
my go-to, maybe not my go-to, but one that I've used a few times and it's kind of evolved over time is what I call the kid date. In college, it entailed going to DI and buying a bunch of clothes that didn't fit us, and then going to McDonald's and getting a kid's meal, and then like going to the park and going on the swings, whatever. It's
very creative.
As a more adult, it's, maybe we just like get some adult coloring books and like watch cartoons on the TV or build a blanket fort or something like that. I think it's it's not really a good first date necessarily, in my opinion, but it's a good like, third, fourth, fifth date, something like that.
Once you're more comfortable with each other.
Huh. Interesting.
Okay, least favorite date?
Oh, man. I mean, I think that's kind of just depended on the person. I'm trying to think. I mean, personally, I went on a date and it was just far too long. We were just at a restaurant, but it was far too long. And the guy ended up being really weird. And there were so many red flags all over the place,
and you were stuck there just for too long.
I was
One of the
stuck
times
there
you want fast service, right?
And I was thinking the whole time, how do I get out of that? So I'm not sure if I have exactly like.
Yeah, maybe like worst activity, or at least situation. The activity itself was fine. We went up to one of the Alpine lakes or something like that and just kind of hung out for a bit. But it was a first date. Well, it was a double date. It was a first date for me. Mm-hmm. And it was a couple that was the other couple. And I get very car sick. I'll drive up to the Alpine Lake was not good. Didn't talk to my date at all, which I felt very bad about. And then when we got back, they wanted to watch a movie. I did not throw up, luckily, but we watched a movie and the other couple made out the whole time. And we just sat there on the couch, like very awkward.
That's definitely a thing that happens quite a bit. Your friends had the best of intentions, set you up. I'm in this great relationship. They have a friend, come with us. We're going to be very lovey-dovey and you can fend for yourself kind of thing.
Yeah. I've been on like probably 50 blind dates in my life. Like it is so many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens quite a bit.
Do you think, and it may be different for obviously for everyone, and depending on what stage you're on, you even referenced that at the start, that most 20-something Latter-day Saints are looking for a spouse or just for a good time when they go on a date?
I feel like the majority are maybe not necessarily looking, but they are definitely open to a spouse. And I would say at least half are looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think especially within the culture, it's never dating just to date. We know that there is not only an expectation, but there is kind of this anticipation that at any point you could meet your eternal companion. And so that's kind of baked into the tension of any date, of any interaction. So I think, I don't know, even young people, I mean, my sister's 20 years old and she's getting married this fall. So, I mean, I think it happens at all ages.
Yeah. I think that goes back to the kind of intention of setting up the date as well. Cause, I've hung out with a lot of women and I like spending time with them, and I don't think either of us necessarily see a romantic future, but we can still spend time together. But that can get you in trouble if you're not explicit about that or if you don't have that conversation up front.
Yeah. So where do most young single adults, LDS, meet each other? Especially in a time when there's not as many people going to the office. And if you're out of school, I mean, you're in school, but it's online. So it's not like there's a place to meet people. If you don't meet your future spouse in college, then where do you meet? If you don't go to bars, you don't go to,
You're asking two single people, so I don't know that we necessarily have.
We don't have the answer.
Church.
Church.
Church has been an interesting place because these are the people that you spend a lot of time with. You're with them 2 to 3 times a week, maybe more.
Yeah.
And so you get to know them, but it can also lead to awkwardness if there's a breakup later on, because then you have this ward family and you're like, we're still interacting. So church is a good place. Institute can be a good place. And I mean, if your friends aren't going to abandon you for their own significant other on a date, being set up by your friends can be good too.
Friend groups, you could both have outside of the ward, you have friend groups that line you up with.
Yeah, I think friend groups is a good option. Just doing activity, like whatever hobbies you have, you can go and find some group and hopefully meet some people there, whether it's friends or dates or whatever. I think that's a good option as well. I've gotten in trouble before dating within your ward. It can be kind of awkward after you lose half your friends.
You talked about going to different wards, right?
Yeah. Some ward hopping definitely goes on.
There's a decent amount of ward hopping going on where, they have kind of their home ward that they'll go to regularly, and then occasionally they'll go to a different ward just to check it out.
They get a tip. Hey, try this ward over here.
There are wards that are notorious in the Valley for, hey, this is a big ward. This is a ward that's either older. These are wards that like to have lots of activities, lots of cute girls, lots of cute guys. Like, come on over. I heard about that at a Valentine's party last night. So it's a thing for sure.
There used to be Institute of Religion. There used to be LDS sororities and fraternities. They did away with that, even though we know lots of couples have met that way. Huh, Dave?
This is a little taking it to a little different place in the church. What do you wish senior church leaders understood about dating today? Or do you think that they do? Do you think that they get what the environment's like now and what with any expectations that might be set?
I honestly don't know what the senior church leaders think or know, but they seem pretty up with it on everything else.
Okay.
So I would assume they're.
What did you think when Dallin Oaks, I think it was last year, he basically encouraged single members to get out there and get married?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it to me, it felt like something like, tell me something I don't know. We're trying, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was more directed at people who were just trying to date for fun and just have a fun time, NICMO, if you will. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, on a podcast, but that's okay.
What is that?
Non-committal makeout.
Oh, okay.
NICMO, NCMO.
Thank you. That helps us.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's been a big trend with that over the last few years, so I think he's directing it more at that. But people who are serious about dating, serious about wanting to get married eventually, we're trying. And I think I looked for the second page at that talk of, did he tell us how? Did he tell us how to accomplish this impossible dream?
What does 90-year-old tell me about how to do this?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, because it's like, I think you guys mentioned this. It seems like it depends in Latter-day Saint culture if they're dating, or at least keeping your options open, that this could turn into something more than just a fun date.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think young Latter-day Saints have more commitment fears than their parents?
I don't know necessarily commitment fears. We have seen, our generation has seen more and more of our parents get divorced than our parents did. So I think we see that, but we also have a different view of marriage and love now. We have more of I don't want to say self-serving, but I do want to say kind of, it's okay to put yourself first and be happy. So we're not getting married just to get married to check a box. And so I think that is something that's really different about our generation.
I mean, the marriage age is rising within, if the studies are right, within overall culture, certainly in Mormonism too, right? So I guess that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So do you think that the move to the 2-hour block and the home-centered worship affected ability to meet people? There's much less socializing going on. Although it sounds like in young single adults, that's not true. But in regular wards, there's much less socializing.
I think my thought on this is, I love the 2-hour block. It's so great to not be there for as long. The one downside is if you have a crush in the ward and it's Relief Society that day, you don't get to see him as much. So, it was fun to have Relief Society and Sunday school because you get this breakup. Usually, they're good at holding these linger-longers, these luncheons after, but it definitely kind of cuts off this time you would have to socialize.
What about you, Matt?
My experience is a little odd, I guess, just because I lived out of state for a long time where I was in a small branch. So when they made the change to 2-hour block, I was seeing the same 10 people every week anyways. So it didn't really change my prospects.
Have you noticed something different here in
last time I lived here in Utah before moving back about a year ago was in college. So a little different situation. But I don't feel like, I don't know. Definitely, yeah, it's harder to see your crush and things like that and harder to get those kind of casual interactions. But the people that want to date or want to hang out, they'll do game nights or whatever. Like they'll still do stuff outside of church anyways. Are
you trying to gauge prospects, for lack of a better word, in church? Where are they at on the church spectrum? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%.
It's an overarching theme. It's always there where you're, I don't know about.
Our leaders have told us to get married. We got to, have it on the mind 100% of the time.
But are you asking, I wonder what kind of question he or she's going to ask in Sunday school that might give me some kind of indication of where, I'm just asking.
Yeah. And you're figuring out activity level where they sit with this. Matt and I have actually talked about this, about when looking for somebody to date. You want somebody who's in the same spectrum of Mormonism as you, whether that's wholly devout, whether that means all the nuances, you kind of want to be aligned on those little things.
Yeah, is this 100%. Person more orthodox, more progressive, more absolutely. Whatever?
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. And so you are looking for that in Sunday school responses, in testimony meetings of, okay, that sparked my interest. That sounds like something I would say. That's similar.
Yeah. And comments they make, even just in like how engaged they seem, you know, whether they're like playing games on their phone during classes and stuff like that, or whether they're listening to the lesson, little things like that.
Speaking of phones, when you go on a date, is it a turn off to have your phone on and be engaged on that? Or do young people do that a lot?
I don't like to be on my phone on dates if I can help it. I mean, I'll have it on so it's like if my parents or siblings.
There's an emergency.
Yeah, there's an emergency if work really needs me. Okay. But if I were on a date and the phone was out on the table texting constantly, that would be not great for me.
Yeah, I haven't had that experience. That would really bug me as well. But at the same time, it kind of bugs me as well, where it's like, oh, they looked at their phone to see what time it was. How horrible. It's like, no, we're still people. And yeah, emergencies come up. Like I've had friends text me with like, they need help right then. And I didn't see it for like 2 hours because I was on a date and I felt weird pulling out my phone. And I don't like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's valid.
Let's talk about dating non-members.
Sure.
How do you handle that? Have you guys had some experience dating non-Mormons?
I've not seriously dated any non-members, but I dated a lot of non-members when I lived out of state for sure. Yeah.
And how do you handle the sort of expectation that there'll be sex?
Yeah, I've heard lots of responses to that. I mean, everything from I'm glad you told me that's a deal breaker, or I'm glad you told me that's fine, to I think one woman I talked to about that was like, why are you bringing that up? Like, you expect me to have sex with you on the first date or something? And I was like, whoa, no, it's just something I want to make on the same page on. Like,
Yeah.
Sarah?
Yeah, I've dated a couple non-members, not very seriously, but yeah, it's kind of the same thing where you bring it up, and especially it's kind of hard to bring up, especially as a woman. It's a weird dynamic because you're like, I promise I'm not coming on to you, and I promise I'm not bringing this up so that you'll think about it. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. But it also has to come up in conversations with members as well. It's a thing that you have to establish when you talk about those nuances within the church as well. You kind of have to gauge their level of what they consider to still be the law of chastity, what that means to them. And I don't know your experiences with that, but I mean, that's definitely a conversation I've had to have a few times.
I haven't had to have that until I was like actually dating somebody, I think.
Yeah.
What about friends in the church? Have you had friends in the church who sort of leave because that's just become such a barrier to meeting people? Or
I feel like there's usually other things, in my experience at least, that's not the primary reason they're leaving. Like maybe that's an extra perk, but yeah,
I would agree with that, because I mean, it may be like you said, a perk to leaving, but I feel like leaving the church is much more history, doctrine related. Also, things they quote unquote find out that
also in Utah, I don't know that that's necessarily widening your pool or making it easier.
It might be narrowing it, is what you're saying.
Unless they're in they're in a very specific group of people who have left. But yeah, it's definitely not widening your pool to leave.
Do you like dating, or do you just get tired of it?
Both.
I've just gone through 2 breakups, so I'm kind of sick of it right now.
Oh, yeah, okay, I gotcha.
But overall, I mean, it's a good time just to, I don't know, I like going out and doing things anyways, and it's nice to share that with people, whether that's on a first date. I mean, that's not ideal, but when you get to 3rd, 4th date, it's, it's nice to have somebody to spend time with. So,
yeah, I mean, it can be exhausting, and there's moments where you definitely have to step back and take a break, whether it's after a breakup or whether it's just there are no prospects right now. But I mean, it still can be fun. I'm hoping that we're putting more fun back into it with these institute activities, YSA activities, that sort of thing. So it's not so treacherous to try to find an eternal companion.
So what would you like every one of our listeners to know about finding love in these days?
I mean, I think, I don't know, my opinion that I've kind of conveyed through this as well is you look for friendship first. I mean, I just moved here from out of state and I didn't have any friends. So it's like, yeah, I want to spend time with these women mostly just to get to know them and see if we can hang out on a Saturday night, not necessarily if we can get married. So I think if you just kind of take the pressure out of it and just make friends, it makes it way easier and way more enjoyable too.
Yeah. And I think being friends first is a huge thing. We all have that one person in our ward who, if they're interacting with you, it's to ask you on a date. So it's kind of like chill out, take a step back, make friendships first, and things will fall into place. It may not be a forever kind of thing, but things will fall into place.
Well, Sara Sumsion, Matt Judd, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And thanks to Peggy Fletcher-Stack.
Always a pleasure.
And to our producer, Chris Samuels. We remind you that you can keep up on all the happenings in and about the church by subscribing to the Salt Lake Tribune's free Mormon Land newsletter. Just go to sltrib.com to sign up, and we'll talk again next time on Mormon Land.